Is the US getting ready for war with China after placing missiles in the Philippines? The US just placed missiles in the Philippines, but is this a sign of an imminent war with China? Could this be the spark that ignites the next global conflict? Stick around because what you're about to hear will shock you and leave you questioning the future of world peace. In a bold move that has set the world on edge, the United States has stationed high-powered missiles in the Philippines. While some believe this is just a strategic deterrence, others are sounding the alarm. Are we witnessing the first steps toward a major war between two global superpowers? The answer may surprise you. Hi friends, welcome to our channel, your go-to source for breaking global events, hidden truths, and the stories that will shape our future. Before we dive into this critical issue of US missiles in the Philippines and the growing tension with China, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you never miss an update on these important developments. In recent months, the United States has strengthened its military presence in the Asia-Pacific region, particularly in the Philippines, with a series of strategic moves that have drawn the attention of the world, especially China. The U.S. Department of Defense has deployed high-tech missile systems and military infrastructure, citing a need for regional stability and security. But what's really going on here? The U.S.-Philippines alliance dates back to World War II, and in recent years, tensions with China over the South China Sea have brought the two nations closer once again. The South China Sea, a hotly contested region rich in natural resources, is claimed by multiple countries, with China asserting its dominance over large swaths of this crucial waterway. This has led to confrontations, not only with smaller nations like Vietnam and Malaysia but with global superpowers like the United States. China has built military bases on artificial islands in the South China Sea, ramping up tensions. In response, the U.S. has conducted freedom of navigation operations, sending warships through the disputed waters to assert international rights. But this latest move, placing missiles in the Philippines, has sparked fears that these geopolitical maneuvers are no longer just about strategy but are a prelude to war. The U.S. sees its missile placements as a necessary step to contain China's expanding influence in the region. However, Chinese officials have condemned these actions as a direct provocation, accusing the U.S. of meddling in their backyard. Could this be the tipping point? Let's examine the reasons behind this deployment and the consequences it could have. The deployment of U.S. missiles in the Philippines is not just a routine military maneuver. It's a bold and calculated step in the global power struggle between the U.S. and China. At the heart of this move is strategic deterrence, a military doctrine designed to prevent conflict by showcasing overwhelming strength. By placing state-of-the-art missile systems so close to Chinese territory, the U.S. is sending a clear and undeniable message. Any aggressive move by China could be met with immediate and devastating retaliation. This type of deterrence is about keeping peace through power, but it comes at a dangerous price. The closer these weapons get to Chinese borders, the more precarious the situation becomes. This isn't just a defensive stance, it's a show of dominance. The U.S. is essentially saying, we will not allow China to assert unchecked control over this region. But make no mistake, this tactic walks a very fine line. Strategic deterrence is effective only as long as both sides are unwilling to pull the trigger, and right now, tensions between these two superpowers are at a boiling point. The U.S. wants to ensure that China understands any military actions, whether in Taiwan, the South China Sea, or beyond, will come with massive consequences. This missile deployment is meant to raise the stakes, discouraging China from making aggressive territorial advances. But the risk is high. The closer these weapons are, the faster any small incident can escalate into a full-blown conflict. The deployment isn't just a warning, it's a reminder that in today's geopolitical landscape, war could be just one miscalculation away. For the Philippines, being the staging ground for these missiles means they are now on the front lines of this potential conflict, which could turn their nation into a battleground if deterrence fails. The South China Sea is no ordinary body of water. It's the most hotly contested maritime region in the world, with trillions of dollars in global trade passing through its waters each year. At the heart of this conflict is China's aggressive claim to nearly the entire sea, marked by the infamous 9-dash line, a territorial boundary that cuts across the claims of several other nations, including Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines. In recent years, China has fortified this claim by constructing artificial islands, complete with military bases, airstrips, and missile launchers. This expansion has raised alarm bells in Washington, as these militarized outposts give China significant control over one of the world's busiest shipping lanes and could be used to enforce an economic chokehold on global trade. But the stakes are even higher than that. The South China Sea is not just a commercial hub, it's a potential flashpoint for war. Any misstep or misunderstanding between naval forces patrolling these waters could quickly spiral into an international crisis. By placing missiles in the Philippines, the US is making a bold statement. It will not allow China to turn the South China Sea into its private domain. This is not just about maintaining freedom of navigation, it's about preventing China from becoming the uncontested military powerhouse in the region. But with US forces so close to China's artificial islands, one wrong move could trigger a catastrophic conflict. The question is, how long can these powers continue playing this high-stakes game of chicken before someone makes a fatal miscalculation? As China rises as a global superpower, the United States is faced with a critical dilemma: how to maintain its dominance without sparking an all-out war. The US missile placement in the Philippines is part of a broader strategy to preserve the balance of power in the Asia-Pacific region, a balance that has been shifting dramatically in China's favor. Over the last decade, China has rapidly modernized its military, built a formidable navy, and extended its reach across Asia, threatening the influence of the United States and its allies. Beijing's aggressive actions in the South China Sea, its relentless pursuit of reunification with Taiwan, and its Belt and Road Initiative have signaled its intentions to reshape the global order. In response, the US missile deployment serves as a counterweight, ensuring that China's rise does not go unchecked. This is about more than just military positioning, it's about reminding China that the US remains the world's dominant military force. However, maintaining this balance is a dangerous game. The closer the US gets to China's borders, the greater the risk of a military confrontation. One misstep could lead to a conflict that neither side wants but may be unable to avoid. As tensions continue to rise, the question remains: how far will the US go to preserve its influence in the face of China's growing power? And at what point does deterrence turn into provocation? The Philippines, a strategic US ally in the Asia-Pacific, is now caught in the crosshairs of this growing tension between Washington and Beijing. For decades, the Philippines has maintained a delicate balance, relying on both the US for military support and China for economic opportunities. But with the US missile deployment on its soil, that balance is becoming increasingly precarious. The Philippines is no longer just a bystander in this geopolitical struggle, it's a potential battlefield. By hosting US missile systems, the Philippines has made a bold commitment to the US alliance, but it has also exposed itself to the wrath of China. China has made it clear that any US military presence in the region is seen as a direct threat, and by allowing missiles on its territory, the Philippines may be seen as a proxy for US military ambitions. This could have devastating consequences for the country, both economically and militarily. China is one of the Philippines' largest trading partners, and any conflict or sanctions could cripple its economy. Even worse, in the event of an armed conflict, the Philippines could become the front line in a battle between two global superpowers. For the Philippines, this is a dangerous gamble, one that could reshape the country's future for generations to come. Will the US missile deployment protect the Philippines from Chinese aggression, or has it turned the country into a target? For China, the US missile deployment in the Philippines is nothing short of a red line crossed. Beijing has long warned against increased US military presence in what it considers its sphere of influence, and these missiles represent a direct challenge to China's regional dominance. From China's perspective, the US is not just defending its interests, it's encroaching on China's backyard, positioning weapons that could threaten its cities, military bases, and infrastructure. The Chinese government has already condemned the missile placement, calling it an act of provocation and a blatant violation of regional stability. But beyond words, what actions will China take in response? We've already seen China ramp up military drills in the South China Sea and conduct war games near Taiwan. But this latest US move could push China to take even more aggressive steps, potentially increasing its own missile deployments, conducting cyber attacks, or even engaging in direct confrontations with US forces in the region. The most alarming possibility is that China might decide it's no longer in its interest to wait and may take preemptive action, possibly against Taiwan or other US allies in the region, as a show of strength. With each side escalating their military presence, the potential for a mistaken calculation or accidental clash increases. Could this missile deployment be the final spark that ignites a conflict neither side can back down from? While the US claims this move is purely defensive, the reality is much more complicated. With missiles now stationed in the Philippines and tensions running high, the risk of an all-out conflict between the US and China looms larger than ever. What do you think? Is this just posturing, or are we on the verge of something much more dangerous? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, if you want to stay informed about the latest developments in this high-stakes global chess game, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next video.